Welcome to A Profits Lessons from the Trenches. Today we're joined by Marisa Fong from New Zealand, a powerhouse entrepreneur who co-founded Madison Recruitment and led it to become the country's largest privately owned recruitment firm before executing a landmark big exit in 2013. Since then, Marisa has become a sought-after investor, advisor and advocate for women in business. She now channels her passions for empowering female founders through her latest venture, React, a coaching and community platform designed to help women scale their business on their own terms. The key thing there is on her own terms. Get ready for a frank, actionable insight straight from the trenches. Welcome, Marisa.
To be here, Craig. Thank you for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure. I have waited so long for this conversation, so no, it's very exciting. So, we have had a good chat previously. We've done some introductions as well to colleagues and friends, and it's a small world as it turns out. We've had some mutual friends that we didn't even know about. So it was a pleasure to introduce you to some people as well.
It's great. It's a small world, really, isn't it?
It is. But I want to get straight into it. Tell me, the burning question on my mind these days is sellers' remorse after a big exit. There is a huge psychological thing there. And when I go and talk with founders long before they exit, I always want to know, what are you going to be doing 2 years after you exit? That's my only question. Please tell us about your experience and your views on the subject.
I wish I'd had somebody ask me that question because we were so focused on the actual process of getting ready to sell and remembering that we were approached before we went on market. So actually, even less prepared, getting prepared, and then we got approached and we were kind of shortcutted into this. We didn't preempt before we even really thought through some of the implications. And so I think if someone had to me that question, where do you see yourself 2 years after the exit? That would have been a really good question to have been asked, because we then were so focused on the actual exit and the actual process, because you can imagine the process is quite full on. The acquirer was a publicly listed company, so there was BD and data ring, lots of other things that we had to deal with. And so I don't think either I really what would happen afterwards was, well, I speak for myself when I say I said we were just focused on the actual event. And so when it happened, it was quite interesting because I remember just that sense of relief that it had happened, and was just so much focus on that end point. And then seeing the money come into the bank account, right? Actually, that was proof that it had actually happened. And so I remember I took a screenshot of bank balance because I was like, there's so much money at the bank ever. But then there's this weird kind of, then the reality of happened. And it was like, what now? Particularly once it was publicly announced, once it was public domain, suddenly you realized that the thing that you had built was no longer yours. Then there's this coupling from your identity, professional identity and your identity. And so thought Marissa's identity was part of the Madison thing, and that Madison was part of all this kind of thing. So I had to couple it. And then there's a sort of sense of, oh, well then, what do I represent? Who do I represent? Who am I now? And not having gone through that exercise, I then went on this journey of actually trying to do lots of things to find relevance and actually doing some stupid things, like yes to lots of things because actually you're looking for meaning or sense, some sort of life and purpose. So there was a lot of kissing of things, that before I understood actual passion lay and what I really wanted to do. And so definitely that sense of not sure that it's remorse, understanding what you'd given up and not having something else to replace it. I think I probably liken it to maybe somebody who's just never had any hobbies or never interests outside of work. Suddenly you've got this whole empty space in your day that you're fill. And I think that would be loss of identity, when so much part business identity of your. So I think that's probably where it's at. And it was great that you asked that question of other people, because I wished you'd been around to ask.
And that's why I always say to people, well, I was in LA back in November and someone came up to me, I was at this investors conference, and they came up to me and they said, so Craig, what's your biggest problem? And this may sound a little bit odd, but I'm going to put it out there in the public right now. I said, my biggest problem is people don't talk to me enough. I said, people need to come and talk to me more. That's my biggest problem. Being able to help more people by asking those questions, as an example. But when I go to talk to a founder, I don't talk to them about selling their business at all. That barely comes up in the conversation. It's always about, okay, what are you going to be doing in 2 years' time? Are you going to be out playing golf? Who are you playing golf with? And are you playing 9? Are you playing 18? Are you going sailing? Who are you doing it with? And then working, as Adam Coffey, an M&A expert in the US, says, he's a pilot, and he says a pilot always works on the destination first and then works backwards with those steps. So once I know those steps, once I know what they're trying to achieve, it's then easier to say, okay, how far along have we progressed? Have you got the tickets for the plane to take you on that holiday that you were going to do?
Yeah.
Have we made it that far? Have we made it to the step of booking the hotel yet? Have we achieved each of the goals to get us that far? And that way, when they get to the end, it's not that, what do I do? My phone isn't ringing anymore. Nobody needs me. And I think that's a lot of what people that do the big exits come across. I've got a friend in the US, and he sold 387 HVAC. A business with 387 HVAC businesses in it. And he sold it to his son, as it turned out. He hung around the office. He stayed in the same office for 6 months. And his son came in after 6 months, tapped him on the shoulder and said, Dad, get out. This is my business. You don't have a place here anymore. Go and find your own place in the world.
Yeah. And
now they're in business together.
Right? Which is great. And as long as there's a very clear expectations. But I think because particularly in our case, they wanted us, they didn't change, they wanted to keep the sort of brand as it was and all these sorts of things. But I think there was a very clear message that we were not to hang around, right? And so, they'd bought the business. They wanted the business. They didn't need us, So there was no kind of stay on for 3 years and this kind of thing. There was no earn-out period. Our CEO did the 1 year earn-out, which was great. So it was pretty much immediate. We had 12 months maybe of we went to board meetings. We were still on the board for a year after the acquisition. But I think that actually did not help us with the transition because we couldn't do anything. We would give advice and things, but really it was up to them what they chose to take. And so in the end, you just really know you were there as a kind of just to help bed in the new owners, really. And so, it was fine. But yeah, definitely to that next thing. And I think that question of asking, if you hadn't built something to go to or hadn't understood what it was that really drives you, then you a lot of time, as I did, finding what that was. And actually, and I have now, but it's probably took me probably 6 to 8 years really to get into it.
Yep. Well, I went to the Universal Expo in Brisbane in 1988, and I walked into the Spanish Pavilion there, and I saw a table with the 1992 Olympic Stadium and all their facilities laid out there. And then they also had the next Universal Expo laid out there on another table in another room. And that was the 16th of August, 1988 that I walked in there.
Wow.
And I looked at that and I said, I'm going to the Olympics in 92. I'm going to the Universal Expo in 92. So that was 4 years down the track. Everything that I did from that point on focused on getting there. And I went there.
Right. Yeah.
And I did it. And I came
so
back.
True, wasn't it?
And I didn't have anything to do. I didn't know what to do. I was lost for 2 years. I just was lost. So the message, I believe, is you've got to have two goals. You've got to have the goal after your big goal that you're working for, so that you've got something to work for after that as well.
Yeah, it's just having some sort of purpose and sense making. And
Mm,
I think really all people need this. It's not just founders of businesses, but it's really everyone. Like, what
it
is it
is.
that lights you up? What is it that is your, you talk about passions, which are fine, but and it's stuff that actually is doable, is in your zone of genius, is something that's effortless, something that you just feel strongly about and you're able to impact. What is that for everyone, And then if we can move towards that, gives us this purpose and sense making of our life. And I think that's was for me for a journey of discovery for like 4 or 5 years, just working out what that looked like. Then another 2 years to find the form of what that, 2 to 3 years to find what form that should be in.
Mhm.
Also, the world was changing so fast, and yeah, I don't even need to bring it up. COVID, that was just like that. Just almost paused the world for 2 years. It's almost like 2 years didn't exist. That sort of 2020, 21, and 22 was just crazy times. So I feel like it. There was 2 years of kind of what is going on. So pre-COVID, post-COVID, and sense of then for me what that looked like. Yeah.
Now, I sent you a gift last time we spoke. I sent you a gift going through your social media and all your
Yes.
websites and a background
Yes.
check on that.
I
How
was
did,
so amazed by that.
really? And you got some value from it as well?
I did. I had never done it myself. Never. I never think about Googling myself. When people say, oh, you should Google yourself and see what comes up. I never do it. Or I think I've maybe done it once in my life just because someone said, oh, you need to do it for your bio and blah, blah, blah. I've really done it. And what came out of it was so interesting because thank goodness it was all consistent. But it's so interesting because actually if you could do that, anyone could else, right? And so we talk about consistency, profile, personal brand. And I was so pleased that my personal brand was what I had wanted it to be. It supported everything that I talk about and that there was no incongruent things I had done or anything that was, strange or not really synergistic with what I believe.
When you go into businesses, now you mentor people, you coach people. When you look at those people, do you do some sort of a check on who they are before you deal with them?
Depends on how they've come to me. So sometimes they're referrals, sometimes they're just cold. But I think there's some value in that actually, because I haven't. I'm quite an open, accepting person. I tend to be very, and maybe I'm not as discriminating or maybe discerning as I should be. I should possibly do more of that. I'm across that where I had a partnership with someone that did not work out. And possibly if I'd done that, DD, I would have found some of this stuff and maybe thought better of supporting this person. So I do think that there is some value to that, depending on how these people have entered onto my radar. Typically, if they've been referred to people that I trust, by people I trust, I would have less concern about that. But now I do a little more review, probably not in the depth that you do, though, which I think is really interesting.
Well, mine was a gift to you. That took a bit of effort to put together, but it was a gift so that we could enhance our relationship, so to speak. I wanted to
Yes,
give you
I
something
love that.
of
I
value.
loved it. I love it. And I really appreciate it because I had never received anything so in depth before and so valuable actually, because it probably summarized for me. And actually, I can use it, right? When I be about myself, I can actually send it like, here's something that someone else researched and this is what it says about me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at it now. I think what I found 5 links on your social media that weren't working as well.
That's right.
The point that I'm trying to make here is you need to be doing your due diligence on people as much as you do on their businesses as well. Because if you
Yes.
don't know the people you're dealing with, then my wife and I were talking about celebrity photographs in the car going for a drive. And well, what happens if I had my photo taken with the ex-Prince Andrew or Edelston or whatever?
Yes. Yes.
How does that affect my personal brand? So it's a matter of
Exactly.
looking into these people and yeah. So that's
Yeah.
why I thought
Yeah.
that was an interesting one there. there
It
was
is really
some,
interesting, actually. And there's a term I use that actually I think my business partner, and it's something that I think suffer from, and that is the thing of being glamoured. We get glamoured into doing things or being whatever because it seems like they've got some glamour around them, and we could get caught up in that and get glamoured into wanting to say yes to things or attending things or whatever it is because we're glamoured into it. And you see that with people going, oh, I'll take a photo with this person because, they're currently the person du jour, right? And as you say, that could work for you or against you later. You just never know. So it's interesting, actually, about that point you make. Being a little more discerning, I think, is always a good thing. And actually, not needing that. I'm really not interested in that kind of thing because actually I don't need to stand next to someone
you don't need
and have
to,
a
no.
photo taker just because that might make me, it's almost like a halo effect. People kind of halo effect from the person that they think has this celebrity. And I think to myself, I actually don't need that. I'm not interested in that. But it's something that actually exists, right? We acknowledge that people.
I do it.
There's a little, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. If Tom Cruise came in somewhere and said, would you like a photo with Tom? Yeah, probably. It's probably once in a lifetime, right? But then later, you find out that he's not of good character. Oh, well, I guess in that sense, so many people have had their photos taken with Tom Cruise. I'm sure none of us are really going to, point to the finger at everyone and go, oh, she had a photo. Doesn't really matter. So in a way, you just try and just do the best you can. But yeah, being really using because it's about your integrity and really saying your authenticity and then your own values. How do you life? Yeah. So how does it apply in the actions that you take and who do you stand next to? Who reflects your values?
Absolutely. And that is, I have sacked 2 clients this year.
Okay. Tell me more about that. Why?
Well, I've got a little red light on my forehead. You can't see it at the moment. And the reason you can't see it at the moment is, am I allowed to say this on my own podcast? We'll
Yes.
find out. Well, it's a bullshit detector.
Yes. Perfect. I love that. It's called the bullshit radar. It's the radar. Honestly.
Okay, fine. If you can say it on my podcast, I can say it. Fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Say whatever you want.
And when I'm around bullshit, the little red light comes on. And that's what I gauge things on. And I had a meeting with someone at the beginning of the month here, and there was a little red dot there. And I thought, no, I'll go again. And I actually did a podcast recording. And the next day, I watched it and I didn't get a feeling back. And the email that I got back from the person, it was very transactional. It was, here, I want you to do this for me. And I responded back to them the next day and I said, look, I'm not going to progress this podcast any further. I'm not processing it any further. I don't believe that your values align with mine. I don't believe that the way that I want to be conducting myself in 2026 aligns with how you are. She was a referral, and the very next call that I had after recording this podcast, by the way, was with someone, and I thought, oh, those two are going to get on really well together. So I quickly mentioned the company and the company style to this guy. And he said, oh, you're talking about such and such. I'm on the board of her company. So there you go. I was spot on with who I felt was going to help her out.
Yes, yes.
Now, there was someone else that I felt that could have helped her out as well. She doesn't benefit from that anymore because I don't believe that she was a giver. I think she was just a receiver.
Yeah.
That 2025 was the year of me not bothering with political correctness. I've given up on that. 2026, by the way, isn't looking so good for that either. I've got to say.
I have to say, I applaud that because I think we've just got to be ourselves and be true. I've got to a point where, and especially at an age where I think, the people who are your tribe will be your tribe. The people who are not will not. And they can vote. That's fine. They can vote with their feet. They don't have to work with you.
They can sack me.
They can just don't worry about it. It's fine. It doesn't matter. We're not for everyone. If we're trying to be for everyone, we're for no one, right? As that
Yes.
old saying goes. And so I'm totally good with that. I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to say things. I don't care. I don't need more friends. I have plenty of great friends. I don't need to make more money. If I could just stop and do nothing, it'd be perfectly fine for the rest of my life. So it's actually not about money now. Now it's about surrounding myself that actually give me joy and actually are fun to work with. And actually I can help and see that I'm having an impact. So it gives me something back, in terms of that sense of purpose and knowing that I have meaning for something. I have a meaning in my life, So I think that you get to a point where you just don't care about the rest. And not everyone, unfortunately, is lucky enough to be at that point, right? But I feel like if we'd arrived there earlier, if I had known what I know now in my 30s and my 40s, life would have been so different, But having said that, look, we all go on a journey. We get to different points of understanding of our life. Some people are there earlier, some people are there later. It doesn't matter. Everybody's journey is their own. I was
Yes.
thinking about this as I was driving in today about how we think we were in a race with other people. We think we're in some kind of competitive race in life, And actually, I'm so pleased that I'm in my own, I'm just racing myself, racing anybody else. And in fact, even the word race is so awful because it feels like there's some kind of pace that we need to achieve, some kind of acceleration and momentum, which is really damaging for ourselves even. And so I'm at a point where I'm saying everything I do has to be additive for me. It has to be something that adds to my life. Now, if I'm continually setting myself up a benchmark or some kind of thing, why? For what? I think there's a benchmark or purpose of joy and fun and meaning that's different. I've got to do all these things. I've got to achieve all these things. That's a byproduct. It's a byproduct of the thing you want to do that gives you joy. And so to get joy, these are the little things I have to do, not I have to do these things and then maybe I'll feel joy. No, it's the other way around. So if we can get to that sooner, wouldn't life be so much better for people? Wouldn't society be better? Because we're not all in crazy town just on this hamster wheel, I just feel like if we could just get to people there faster.
People are where they are because of their
Exactly.
experiences already. They're not where they're going to be, but they are where they are. And
Yep.
you're a coach, you help them move from one place to another, but you can't do it for them. They have to do it.
That's right. That's true. That's true. But I'm seeing that people just need, I call it putting the mirror up, telling them anything they probably don't already know. It's just more about asking the right questions, giving them some clarity, giving them some support, and just putting the mirror up and saying, you've got this. You just need clarity, time, and space to have that ability to just plot that for yourself and have some clear thinking. That's all I'm doing.
And that's why I got so frustrated towards the end of last year. I have put out so much amazing material from amazing people like yourself. I've written so many LinkedIn articles to help people along. And towards the end of last year, I got so frustrated that people weren't taking action upon those. And the word accountability came into it. They need accountability. They don't just need the information. They need to be, and the guidance, they need to be held to account, or they're not going to keep moving from one place to another.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I set up my mastermind.
Yeah, good. Because I think, and actually it's interesting, clients are asking me for that. They say to me, oh, this is great that we've done this now, but I know that when I walk out of here, life is just going to come at me. So what I want to firstly hold my hand, but then at the end go, okay, every quarter, what's happened? And hold me to account, knowing that I'm coming back to you in 3 months and you're going to say, did you do these things? Blah, 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 blah. It really holds me accountable. So I'm working on that situation with quite a few clients right now, and they're like sponges. They really want it. So you're absolutely right. It's not all of that.
And if they come back to you in 3 months and they haven't achieved what they said they were going to do, then they come back and you say, okay, fine, we're going to work through this. We'll reset and we'll get you through. They come back in the next 3 months and they haven't achieved what they said they were going to do. What are you thinking? What are you doing?
So this is interesting because you talked about firing a couple of clients or not working with people, deciding.
I'm just
And
throwing the
interestingly
fishing
enough,
line out and reeling you in,
yeah,
really.
yeah, because I have done that as well. And interestingly, most of the time, what I find with women is we're I don't know why, but very high conscientiousness piece in our thing. Maybe it's because we've been conditioned to be good girls, right? Good girls, right? Be a good girl, you know? And so typically what I find with most women is they have got that follow through. Most women I find do the work and execute. Observed the differences as men are different. It's typically the male clients that I see that don't follow through as well. Not everyone, obviously. There's been a high percentage of the male clients that haven't followed through. And so you do the whole what happened and should we do this and blah, blah, blah. And then, so you do reset and then you come back another 3 months and another 3. So I've actually realized that some clients just want therapy. They just want to vent, rant,
Yep.
right? They just want to come, be told that they're right and that, you know, whatever problems they're facing are all the fault of other people, the staff or the blah, blah, the blah, blah. And actually, they are probably the problem. So the founder's the problem because they
Wow.
won't execute on anything, follow through on anything. They're not disciplined or they're not doing the things that they say they're going to do. And so I have actually let go a couple of clients because of that. Because I'm just like, you know, I'm not here to just let you rant on about all the problems and say, yes, you're right. And isn't it terrible for 2 hours or 3 hours while you pay me a lot of money to do that? No,
Does that bring
no.
you joy? Does that get you what you want to
Yeah,
achieve?
exactly.
Because we've already spoken. You said that you're looking for joy in your life. If that isn't bringing you joy in your life, then
No.
you're out of here.
Yeah.
So can I throw you under a bus?
Sure.
I'm going to use your own words against you here. Let's see
Okay.
how this goes. Now, coaching women versus men. Women have less ego and are more conscientious. Women get things done. There you go.
Yeah.
They are
It's
your
true.
words.
It's true. And I say this from and having said that, I have it with my clients who are brilliant, right? I'm just talking about a general observation of the percentage. You know, I would have probably almost 100% of women follow through because they're desperate for that thing and they want to learn and they're open and they're coachable and they know what they don't. They say, I just don't know what I don't know. I just need your help. Sometimes with the men, they do want the help. Often it's for me to verify or validate them. You know, it's more about validation. It's more about, you know, and then there's not so much of the, oh, well, I need to be held to account. And I would just say that there's a slightly great percentage of lack of follow through or less drive to execute or less drive for accountability. The other, and I'm not saying everyone. So if let's say, for instance, if women were 95% amazing, most of them, and I had 5%, it would be something like 80% men amazing and 20% men not doing the follow through. So I'm not talking about a huge difference. I'm not saying 50% of men are useless and they don't follow through. I'm just saying that I have observed that there is likelihood that men won't, and that's.
Marisa, I've asked 2 of my 9 questions that I had documented. I have another 2 that I really want to get through.
Okay, we'll go quickly. I'll be fast.
No. You're not getting off that easily. I'm going to try and set you up here again. This is being recorded. What do you think? Do you think you'd be happy to come back for another 3 questions another time?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. Absolutely.
Ripper.
Yeah.
But I want to get this next one in because it's really important. Reant. Tell me about Reant. This is your new venture. Tell me all about it, please.
So it's been about, I would say, almost 2 years in the making. And interesting as a startup, what we're learning is as we iterate their offerings for women. But basically what my core driver was to do this. Remember, when I got exited by lots of people wanting to have coffee, right? You know, those conversations. And so you go and have coffee, and sometimes you even pay for coffee because they forgot to pay and walked out, right? And you spent an hour and a half with them, right? Helping them brainstorm some of their issues with their business or what their startup's doing and blah, blah, blah. And then you never hear from them again. You never hear from them again, right? They don't tell you what they did. They don't come back to you and say, thank you for giving me this suggestion or introducing me to this person. So you never know, right? And I was kind of frustrated by that. And I thought, this is not fulfilling. This is not, filling my cup, right? So then I thought, how can I make this more structured so that I have more follow through and actually then see the impact and see how more I can help them? And hence the starting of React, because I was just sick of fee conversations.
I know exactly how you feel.
And so then I thought, okay, I'm going to create a proper mentoring coaching business, but I don't really like the whole business coach type persona. There's just so many of them, and some of them are great and some of them are average and some of them are terrible. So anyway, I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to create something that works for me. I'm really wanting to, so basically, model, I do custom workshops. We have a power coaching room. We are building out some other really amazing, really cool things for women in business. And so our values are really around applied knowledge. Because what I see for founders is they're already overwhelmed. Be less overwhelmed, educate them, but make it applied to knowledge and give them some fun. So our values are really around saying yes before we say no, having fun, and actually giving people applied knowledge so they can apply it in their business. So we don't do lots of theory. We're not trying to, teach you how to suck eggs. People have got lots of online courses they could do. They could watch webinars till the cows come home. They could, do online, whatever course. I'm like, it's just so hard, because if we could all learn it online, we'd have done it, right? And so
Yes.
I'm trying to create in real life. The classes are in real life. All my coaching is Zoom or in real life. Membership is different tiers, so we're building out our membership offer. So you can have an online portal. You can engage as little as you want or as much as you want. We have events, because I think the value in this kind of community, it's in the knowledge exchange, it's in the connections, it's in the getting that snippet of knowledge you can apply quickly, and to not overthink things and think this is also hard. So I do financial foundation workshops, because every financial education thing assumes accounting knowledge that a lot of founders, especially women, feel a bit weird about their number thing, and so I go, don't worry about it. You don't even need to know. Here's the shortcuts. And I just give them shortcuts, and I just set up the reports for them in Xero. And so that they don't even have to try and understand. They can just go, oh, well, if I look at this and this is red and this is green and this is, that's what, yes, that's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. So they don't have to. So I'm just trying to make it easy for women to learn, to apply, to have fun, to be part of something, and take the stress out, because I remember what it was like to be in business, grow business, and just the stress and the lack of perspective I had at the time in growing the business, and just feeling so overwhelmed. And yeah, it really helps as well, So I can help women get past that and through that. You're going to have a much better society and community of amazing female founders doing incredible stuff.
Now, you said something specific last time we spoke as well. You're going to hate that I write notes, aren't you? I keep throwing these words back at you. Women should think bigger.
Yes, yeah, they should. And typically it's because maybe we're a little bit nervous. Maybe we're worried about failing. Maybe we're a little bit about not bold enough about having a big vision. And the only reason that is because they're capable of being bigger. And actually, when you're bigger, it's actually less work. If you have infrastructure around you that can do things and all this kind of stuff, then actually it's less on the tools, right? If you can get through that small to journey, which I call, so that middle bit, I call the valley of death, right? Because basically it's that lack of cash to get you from small to large. But if you can get through that valley of death and get to large, actually life's easier. And so I want them to large.
Get them off the tools. And yet, did I hear you mention before, let's set up a shortcut in Xero?
Yes.
So you know how to get in and get your fingers dirty there by the sound of it.
No, I could. I bring in experts. If it's not something I'm really good at doing, I'm going, you know what, let me find the people. They'll come in. So in my financial foundation workshops, I bring someone in who's a Xero expert, and he just walks around and says, what business are you in? What reports do you need? Let me set them shortcuts. Just does it for them on their laptop, right there and then in the workshop. They don't even have to. And then he says, you click here, you click there if you want this, if you click there if you want that, hedgeboard for you, done. And I'm
Okay.
like, that's what founders want. They don't want to try and work it out themselves. They don't want
No,
someone to guide them. They just don't have
I don't
time
want
or
to have to
mental
develop a
energy for that.
website myself.
No, no, there's no mental energy. The mental energy and will and desire to do it is. So let me help you. Come and we will get an expert there for you. And as long as you know what it's telling you, great.
We're going to have to call it quits here for the moment, Marisa. I'm going to put all those details at the end of this podcast, as I always do, and I'll put your details and the business reamped all at the end of this. But if I can get you back, here are the other questions that we really need to discuss. And I want to give a plug for this because this will be included in the notes and I'll put a link as well. You talk a lot about how important connections are and part of the road to success. Yet another quote. And you've got someone there, Priyanka Chandri, that you want to talk
Yes.
about. I would love to talk about Priyanka. We're not going to do it
Yep.
now. We're going to hold
No.
this one over. And another question, do you know how to stop?
Yes, I
No,
know.
no,
I
no,
know.
no, we're
No,
not
we're not going
talking.
to talk about it now.
We're not talking.
Next time. Yes, next time.
And then, there's one other question there. We will hold that over, but I would love to go over that again. But thank you so
Perfect.
much, Marisa. It has been wonderful to chat with you. I have been excited and looking forward to this conversation. I really have.
It's been a pleasure doing it. And as I say, loved your preparation. You're so organized. It's brilliant. So made it painless, made it easy. And, my new part of my things when I look at things is frictionless. And that was friction. Awesome. Really good. Thank you, Craig.
So pleased. Okay, so